Oh, I'd like to present to you a Hobie Master die-cast model. This is HA1521. It's an RCAF Harvard. The Canadians also made them available to other air forces that were primarily used as trainers, though one is still being used in sort of a research capacity in the United Kingdom. This is the most colorful variant of the three that Hobby Master did for the Royal Canadian Air Force. It has the blue accents on it. It also has on the tail the Canadian ensign as opposed to just some color markings. This particular model, the 1521, that was a limited edition of 750 in the run. There was another one put out by a hobby store that was in Hamilton, Ontario previously, which I believe has now gone out of business, which may be associated with the Hamilton Aviation Museum, now up at the airport, that continue to have Hobby Master commission some aircraft through Hobby Master for them. They did some Avro arrows. There's not an awful lot of additional stuff to add to your basic die-cast portion of this model. There are very few additional pieces. The propeller does spin. You get the option of placing the gear in either the up or the down position. The canopy opens and closes as well. And there is one antenna, the little gray stub sticking out behind, in the center of the photo there, behind the cockpit canopy. As for the landing gear, I've seen this model in two different editions, the 1521 and the 1524. The 24 had additional options for the landing gear. The gear came both with and without that flap covering the strut or panel, so that it could be modeled either up or down, either way. So it had essentially 4 sets of main landing gear. And there's not an awful lot of stamping on this smallish Hobby Master die-cast model. It is a 1:72 scale. There is some stamping on this version of the Harvard that is not available on some of the other Harvards that are not in the Canadian Air Force. I don't know if you can see the extremely small stamping on the two fine adjustments of the wing surface there, right behind the Canadian circle flag. There's a little print there. It's probably not showing up too well. There's also some on the tail section. Those ones there say do not step. And so does it on the front there, right below the exhaust on the lead edge of the wing, as well as on the back edge there outside of the black stripe that you would step on. And there is a do not push on the tail rudder. And if we turn this around to take a look at the other side of the aircraft, or if I move the camera, which will probably work just as well, there's one other marking on this aircraft. It's not available on all the Harvards. There's a red line just below the canopy there. It is done in various different styles depending on the type of aircraft, and it may not be on all of the Harvards. Now I should turn this camera back around towards the front a bit. I'm going to take a look at the underside of the aircraft instead of just holding it in this position. My fingers are going to get in the way momentarily here, and you'll be able to see some of the markings on the underside. You would if my hand wasn't in the light that's shining onto the aircraft. You can see there's an RAF on one wing and the airplane part of the airplane number on the other, or the squadron number. It looks like the aircraft number. Let's turn this around. Have the light point right into the cowling at the front of the aircraft, and you can see the detail in there as well when it comes into focus. There we go. I have to center that part in the image for it to come into focus due to my rather primitive setup here of doing this. Now, there was one other variation of the Canadian RAF of this aircraft. It does not have the blue accents on it or the blue striping on the tail rudder. It is HA1520, and it was a limited edition, also put out by the same hobby shop in Hamilton, Ontario. This aircraft is available, the Harvard, for other air forces, the Swedish, the Swiss, New Zealand, and there's even a research variant, I believe, available for a British company, which has some British markings on it. I don't know if it's independent of the government there or not. Let's just take a little flyover. And there's actually a fair amount of detail inside of the cockpit, thanks to the large panels on this particular Harvard of the glass cockpit. The frame doesn't really interfere with that much with looking inside of the aircraft, though I will not be able to take close-up photos of in there. Now, what distinguishes the Harvard, which is the Canadian variant of North American's T6 Texan, is the long exhaust you can see leaving behind the blue cowling around the pistons in the front of the radial engine in the front. It extends down the right side of the aircraft about halfway down the route of the wing to about the same position as the cockpit is if you look side on at it. This is a smallish aircraft. Just a sec here. Much like some of your World War II aircraft there. The F5. It's probably a little bit has a wider wingspan than the Harrier and is somewhat shorter than the Harrier. It is also a bright blue, so it would stand out amongst all those, or bright yellow, I should say, in the Canadian versions. It is available in bare metal, white, and with some orange markings when available for the other nations' aircraft. It would stand out quite well in a military collection of 172 scale aircraft, or even with Gemini Jet's general aviation aircraft. So if you're interested in the Harvard or the Texan, which I don't believe have been made by Hobbymaster in some time, you may have to find them on the second-hand market. I hope this video helps you out.